Hey there. Why is your grocery bill so high? Have you noticed your shopping cart shrinking while your grocery bill is growing? It's not your imagination. Prices really are rising. You might blame greedy companies or politics, but behind it all is one powerful force: inflation. Let's unpack what inflation actually is, what causes it, and how it affects you. We'll even travel to the 1970s, visit hyperinflation in Zimbabwe and Venezuela, and explain how your money loses value. By the end, you'll know why inflation happens, who it hurts and helps, and why it keeps coming back. Spoiler alert, it has a lot to do with money itself. What is inflation? Inflation is just a rise in prices over time. Or flip it, it's your money buying less. A coffee that cost $2 last year might be $2.20 this year. That's a 10% price rise, or a 10% drop in what your dollar can buy. Economists track this using things like the CPI, which averages the price of stuff like groceries, gas, and rent. Some inflation, say 2%, is normal. Central banks actually aim for it. It encourages spending instead of hoarding cash. But when prices rise too fast, your money feels like it's melting in your hand. What causes inflation? 1. Demand pull inflation. Imagine everyone suddenly has more money, like after a stimulus check, and runs out to buy the same things: TVs, eggs, cars. But supply hasn't increased. Too much money chasing too few goods pulls prices up. Cost push inflation. Now flip it. Say the cost of oil doubles. That makes shipping more expensive, which makes groceries, goods, and everything else cost more. Even if demand stays the same, prices rise to cover costs. 3. Inflation expectations. If everyone expects prices to go up, workers demand higher wages, and businesses preemptively raise prices. That leads to a loop. Wages go up, businesses raise prices. People expect more inflation. It feeds itself. 4. Too much money. If a country prints more money than the economy produces in goods and services, each dollar becomes less valuable. Imagine flooding a market with monopoly money. It loses meaning fast. 5. Global shocks. A war, drought, or pandemic can disrupt supply chains, pushing prices up everywhere. When oil gets expensive globally, for example, everyone pays more at the pump, and for everything else that depends on it. Let's time travel. 1970s, America. After an oil shock, gas prices skyrocketed, unemployment rose, and inflation hit double digits. This stagflation was a mess. High prices and low growth. To fight it, Fed Chair Paul Volcker jacked up interest rates to over 20%. Painful, but it worked. Zimbabwe, 2008. The government printed money like confetti. At one point, inflation hit 50 billion% a year. People used wheelbarrows of cash to buy bread. The currency eventually became worthless. Venezuela, 2018. Years of printing money and economic collapse led to 130,000% inflation. Stores stopped listing prices. They changed too fast. Again, the currency had to be scrapped. These show that inflation isn't just annoying. It can destroy economies if left unchecked. How inflation hurts and helps. Inflation feels like a silent tax. Your paycheck buys less. Your savings lose value. Your rent, food, and gas go up first. Lower income families suffer most, since a bigger chunk of their income goes to essentials. If you're on a fixed income, like a retiree, you really feel the pinch. Example: Alice is retired and gets $1,000 per month. Bob is working and gets raises over time. When prices rise, Bob can ask for a raise. Alice can't. Her $1,000 buys less and less each year. As Jerome Powell, US Fed Chair, put it, inflation hurts those who are least able to afford it. Who wins? Borrowers. If you took a loan at 5% and inflation is also 5%, the real interest rate is basically zero. You're repaying with cheaper dollars. Homeowners, fixed-rate mortgage holders benefit. Their payments stay the same, but their home value rises. Landlords and commodity producers, rents and oil prices go up. Who loses? Savers. Your money in the bank is worth less every year if interest rates don't beat inflation. Pensioners. Fixed incomes don't stretch as far. Lenders. They get paid back with money that's worth less. Inflation quietly reshuffles wealth, rewarding debtors and asset owners, while punishing people who live paycheck to paycheck or rely on fixed income. Why inflation keeps coming back? If inflation is so damaging, why not just because often means slowing the economy. Central banks must raise interest rates to make borrowing expensive, which reduces spending. That can lead to layoffs and slower growth. It's like giving the economy bitter medicine. Governments also fear short-term pain. Politicians don't love telling voters, "Sorry, we're raising rates and cutting spending." So inflation often creeps back in when money gets cheap again. Plus, people get used to rising prices. Once inflation becomes expected, it becomes baked into wages, contracts, and business decisions, making it hard to stamp out. Also, many central banks target some inflation, around 2%, as a sign of a healthy, growing economy. So inflation never really goes away. It just takes naps. Can we control it? Yes, but it takes tough love. Central banks like the US Fed raise interest rates to cool the economy. Higher rates mean loans are pricier, so people and businesses borrow and spend less. That reduces demand and slows price increases. Governments can also cut spending, reduce deficits, stop printing too much money, reform currency, in extreme cases. But these are often unpopular because they slow growth or require budget cuts. That's why inflation tends to flare up again after crises, like the 2008 financial crash or COVID stimulus. Final thoughts. Inflation isn't caused by one villain. It's a dance between money supply, demand, supply chains, and expectations. Sometimes it's triggered by war or weather. Sometimes by printing too much money. Often, it's a mix. But one thing's always true. When inflation rises too fast, your money works harder and buys less. So next time your grocery bill shocks you, remember, it's not just your supermarket's fault. It's the invisible gremlins of inflation nibbling away at your wallet. If you want me to make other videos explaining these topics, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments.